Hello, everyone. Jim Stroud here, your SourceCon editor. The other day, I was talking to Michael Wolford about the future of recruiting. And in our talk, we talked a lot about ChatGPT, in particular, the Copilot function in ChatGPT. And as he was sharing with me several cool things, I got this idea. And the idea was, could AI be the cure for the silver tsunami? Listen in on this video, hear the arguments, and let me know what you think.
The next thing to look for is kind of GPTs. You're going to see Copilot make a big play for recruiters as well. That's another Microsoft product. It's definitely coming for us. But that will probably be the more generic tool that we use. That'll be the interface. You're seeing tools that can do interview scheduling, interviewing, right? Candidate screening, candidate matching. We're never going to see ranking. We're going to see matching, right? That's from a legal perspective. That's how they're going to get around AI decision making, is they're going to say, hey, it's a such and such % match. And we can justify that by saying, here's the job description, here's the candidate resume, and here's a table of how it aligns. And actually, to me, that actually makes me feel better, because that's actually a lot more fair. And I'm going to show you here, like, this is the best practice for us to use these GPTs now. One of the things that it empowers us to do is write better pitches for our candidates. One of the things I have it do here is, like, I took a resume from LinkedIn, a random resume for a software engineer and a job, and I'm a sourcer. They're an okay fit. And then I just had it, take a look. And both of those things, right?
So what you're highlighting here is the LinkedIn resume.
Yeah, the information and the job description.
And the job description. Okay.
So then I had, and this is what other thing that's interesting too to me, that's also happening in real time. So as I'm scrolling down here, you finally get to my prompt here. And this is my agent. So this is programmed, for example, with all of my writing. Has everything I've written for SourceCon, Recruiting Daily, my books, all of it's uploaded into this GPT on the back end. So it adopts my persona. And so when I'm asking it to do something, it's almost like it's doing it as me. It's my assistant. It's my co-pilot at this point, because it's programmed with what I know about recruiting, at least what I've written down, right?
Okay, hold on from this point. So you took a lot of your writings, loaded them into ChatGPT, and so that it can learn your perspective and how you say things and how you think, so to speak. And then once that's loaded, you ask it a question.
Yeah.
Such as, okay.
Yeah. And so in this particular case, I asked it, can you take this job description and this resume and write a candidate pitch for me and create a table and show me why this candidate's a good fit? And it starts to write this pitch, and it's actually not really good, to be honest. Like, which is a little hurt, little pride sting right there. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be writing like me. This isn't what I meant. And this is the new feature too. You can call other GPTs. So I stopped it. I called a professional writing GPT I found in the store, one of the top ones. And I said, can you just read the instructions, right, and redo this? And it did. And it's definitely better. So this is the other thing that is going to be interesting, is companies are probably going to have their persona for this, but it'll be interesting to see how they decide to augment that with a third party, because you're going to have to be different. You can't just be on Copilot. Everybody's going to be on Copilot, and everybody's looking for a registered nurse in Seattle. They're all going to get, you know what I mean? If they put it the same way, they're going to get the same. You're not going to get an advantage that way. You're going to spend all this money and time and investment and changing, and nothing's going to happen. So you're going to have to come up with a voice. That's going to be more important than ever, and a brand, because there's so much more content out there, and it's so easy to do.
This is my mind is clicking on a lot of different cylinders here. So you can upload your information so that ChatGPT knows who you are and how you think and how you may say things. When it gives you an output, and if you don't like the output, you have the option of pulling out other experts by virtue of the ChatGPT store, and say, okay, edit what use this new ChatGPT AI operative to fine tune what you've already did from yours. So it's like you're getting access to a brain trust of other people. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just level one, by the way, Jim. You could also, on the back end, you can API data into these.
Okay.
They actually even have the capability when you get over here, when you're editing them. Like this is something that you'll see in the YouTube videos that a lot of people miss. When you're in your edit, you can actually come here and configure, right? And this is where people know to do. They add new action. This is where you can API the data. But what OpenAI did on the back end without really sharing with everybody, you scroll down here, they actually have their own GPT to help you API data in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're trying to make it as simple as possible for, the average everyday user. So for my case, I don't have access to, an ATS or CRM or stuff like that. But if you're a company now, what you can do is create your recruiting persona, your sourcing persona, give it your policies, give it examples of your writing, show it what to do and what not to do, and it will generally speaking follow your examples. Now, I will caveat that with one thing I've noticed. It just loves to start every email with, "I hope this finds you well." It just can't help itself. You have to prompt it not to do that. And even if you do, there are times it will slip by. And yeah, so because it's trying, and that's the other thing to remember, it's trying to predict the most likely next word. And so when you're trying to start an email, the most likely or most common email openings is what it's going to default to. And to me, that's why GPTs are important, because there's going to be a group of recruiters and sourcers using it generically, and they're going to get generic responses, and it's all going to be the exact same thing at volume, and it's going to drown a lot of candidates. And then there's going to be recruiters who have tools, and they don't have to, because if you're using it manually, you've got to think tone, voice, length, style, like directions, create a table. Whereas if I create a GPT that says, okay, when you write a candidate pitch, that's the other thing. Not only am I uploading my information, I can also give it instructions in English. And I say, when you upload a pitch, also never start it with this, and start with the, introduction, top cells of the candidate, and then create a table with the job requirements on one side and experience from the resume on the other. The thing you also have to tell it, I learned, because I've been trying to help people with resumes, and I got some feedback on the resume GPT I built to do the same thing, and it will make up stuff and put it in a resume to make it better. So what you have to do is also explicitly say, only match it with information contained what I've given you. Don't add to the experience, don't take away. If it's not a good match, or if there's a lack of experience, put that. And if you give it that instruction, to be honest, 90% of the time, it's pretty good about that. So there's still some caveats, right? We still can't just blindly turn ourselves over to this. But like, for example, just this right here, I wish I'd had this when I was an agency recruiter, because it'd be so much easier to go line by line and say, all right, hiring manager, you're rejecting this candidate. As far as I could tell, here's your requirements. Here's how they line up. Like for recruiter feedback, we very rarely, it's feedback, we rarely get to know where we actually miss the mark. And if you have something like this where you can go and say, okay, here's what you said you wanted, here's what I delivered, where did I miss?
And it forces that, and it forces the hiring manager to, I don't want to say take you seriously, but I know some hiring managers think, just send me another, they don't really give you any feedback. But with this one, they have to look at, they have to substantiate why they did not accept your candidate, which I like. And it's like right here in front of you. You asked for X, I gave you X. You asked for Y, I gave you Y. What reason do you have to refuse this person? Very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, right. The other thing I'm seeing that I'm nervous. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this before you go to this next thing, because I'm looking at what you just showed, and I'm wondering, could this potentially be a cure for the SIlver Tsunami? For those who don't know, a lot of people are reaching retirement age, and we're going to see a whole lot more this year and in subsequent years as well. And a lot of brain power will be retired out of the workforce. And as I see your demonstration and noting in my mind how you upload your information so you can train GPT to think like you and see things from your perspective. I'm wondering, could it be a cure for the silver tsunami in that when people are retiring or getting near retirement age, they can start uploading their work into GPT, training it to say, okay, that's not how I would say it. That's not true. That's hallucination. That's a lie. This is how you should do it. And people could sort of train an AI prior to their retirement, so the company can still take advantage of their brain power. And then if that is the case, I'm wondering, should the company pay royalties to people after they've gone, because they're no longer there physically, but their brain power is still being used by the company. What do you think about that? Let me just throw it out there.
Yeah, it's what's unique about us. It's our intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why companies don't want to give it up, and why we shouldn't give it up, right? Like, it's a valuable part of what we can do. Like, if you're talking about SourceCon has a database of articles full of experts from the last 10 to 15 years in sourcing. That's a unique data set.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can create your own recruiting persona and your own recruiting assistant from that. Like, that's probably part of the future of the business of SourceCon, is, creating your AI sourcer, the SourceCon sourcer, that is trained with all of the articles that have ever been written for SourceCon.
Interesting. I'll circle back to you on that later on.
Connie Emmer told me over the phone that she saw the squirrel first, but her husband didn't believe her. Then her husband set up a trap and got a close-up look. They know it's purple, but they say they have no idea why.
Some of the people had, said, well, it's dyed. Well, when they come out and looked at him, obviously it's not dyed because of the way it looked on him. It was, and his underbelly was even more purple.
The Pennsylvania squirrel now has its own Facebook page.
It would be very unusual to have a purple animal of any kind.
I showed Henry Kasperzik from the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium pictures of the squirrel.
Albino squirrels, which are white squirrels with pink eyes, and melanistic squirrels, which are the black squirrels. I've seen those in my lifetime. I've never seen nor heard of a purple squirrel.
He says some animals do take on color from what they eat. Flamingos are pink because of the shrimp.
I've got to think it's been exposed, something fell in something, something that dyed its fur.
People on the AccuWeather site have posted all sorts of theories. One woman wrote, "I know what happened. The squirrel robbed a bank and the dye pack exploded."